Hello there and welcome back to Blue Harvest Toys, and in our ongoing series How to Collect, we're going to be talking about the license holders for the Star Wars toys. Between 1977 and 1990, over 300 million figures were sold worldwide. Kenner acquired the main license from Lucasfilm and sold sub-licenses to local toy companies in over 20 different countries. So what I thought I'd do is I'd name each license holder and tell you a bit about them, a few facts and figures. So we're going to start with Brio Playmix, which was in Scandinavia. They were a distributor from 1980 to 1984. They had lines Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi and Tri-Logo, and their figure source was European license holders. Brio and Playmix purchased stock from European countries and then added stickers. And as I said, they were sold all over Scandinavia. Next up we have Clipper with the Benelux regions. Again a distributor from 77 to 85 for the Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi and Tri-Logo lines. And the figure source was the Far East, then Kenner, Palitoy, Meccano and PBP. Clipper had their own packaging from the Star Wars line of figures, which was supplied by the Far East. Clipper Empire Strikes Back carded figures were assembled by Palitoy in the UK. Later they were reduced to adding wrap around the stickers to Kenner and Palitoy Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi MOCs. From Tri-Logo they simply added a small white catalogue on the back of the card. Next up is General Mills Parker, and they were in Germany. They were a distributor from 1980 to 83 on the Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi and Tri-Logo lines, and the figure source was the Far East and PBP. General Mills imported figures from the Far East for packaging on the Empire Strikes Back cards. These were packaged by Palitoy in Colville and then distributed to Germany. Later, Parker produced Tri-Logo MOCs for the European market. Towards the end of the line they began adding the Parker branding and produced Power of the Force branded multipacks by putting overstock Tri-Logo and Kenner Return of the Jedi MOCs in Parker Power of the Force sleeves. Next up we have Harbert from Italy. They were a distributor from 77 to 1980 on the Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back line, and they got their figures from the Far East. Harbert released 22 figures in total, the first 20 on Star Wars cards, and then released Yoda and Boba Fett on Empire Strikes Back cards. Next up is my second favourite foreign license, and that is Meccano. And they were from France and they're distributed from 77 to 1985 with Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi and Tri-Logo lines, and the figure sourced from Far East and PBP. Meccano imported figures from the Far East and packaging on the Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back cards. For Return of the Jedi and Tri-Logo, they were also sourcing figures from PBP too. Next up is our own line, Palitoy. They were in the UK, obviously, distributed from 77 to 85 on Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi and Tri-Logo lines, and their figures were sourced from the Far East and PBP. Palitoy released all 96 standard figures. Packaging of Palitoy carded figures was switched between the Far East and Colville several times over the years. They also occasionally packaged figures for Clipper and General Mills. Palitoy imported figures from the Far East for packaging on their Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back cards, and for the Return of the Jedi and Tri-Logo they also sourced figures from PBP. And you might notice me mentioning PBP quite a lot. They are from Spain. They were manufactured from 81 to 84, the Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi and Tri-Logo lines, and the figures were sourced by themselves, the Far East and Lily Leddy. PBP manufactured 29 figures at their own factory. They also imported figures from the Far East and packaged them. There is a large following for the PBP figures, as they offer great paint and detail variations. Towards the end of the Tri-Logo line, General Mills acquired 100% of the PBP and changed the name to General Mills Juguetes, GMJ. Next up we have the Spanish manufacturer that preceded PBP, and that is POC. They were manufacturers from 1980 to 81 and they had the Empire Strikes Back line. The figures were sourced from the Far East. There are 37 POC figures. It's thought that these were imported in unpainted stock from the Far East. POC finished production themselves by painting and assembling the figures before finally packaging them. In 1980 the company merged with Boras and Paluzzi to form PBP. These figures can be notoriously difficult to identify as the differences are often subtle shades of paint. Now those were all the European license holders. Now we're going to go on to the rest of the world. Starting with Bassa. They were from Peru and they're distributed in 1980 with The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. The figure source was from Kenner. Bassa imported figures from Kenner, then added a small sticker on the front of the MOCs. These figures are super rare and certainly the rarest of all Star Wars licensed figures. Next we have Glasslight or Glassleet, it depends on which way you want to pronounce it, and they're from Brazil. They were manufacturers from 1988 to 1990, believe it or not, with the Power of the Force and Droids line, and they sourced their own figures. Glasslight only released 15 figures, which included 8 Power of the Force and 7 droids. They gained their license in 1988 and managed to acquire unused Kenner molds to produce their own figures. The plastics and paints used differ greatly from the Kenner versions. Next up we have the Mothership, the main manufacturer, Kenner. They were manufacturers in the USA and Canada from 77 to 85 on the Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, Power of the Force, Ewoks and Droids lines. Their figures were sourced from the Far East, BBP and Lily Ledy. Kenner were the main license holder and sold licenses to all the other companies around the world. They released the most figures and card variations. Kenner Canada was very closely linked to its sister company and they shared everything from card art to figure stocks. They would also add French text to MOCs as Canada is officially bilingual. Next up we have Lily Ledy from Mexico. They were manufactured from 1982 to 1985 on Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi and Power of the Force. Their figure source was themselves, Lily Ledy. Due to Mexican import tariffs, Kenner decided that Lily Ledy would manufacture their own figures. Most figures were made from previously used Kenner molds, although 12 figures were made with unique molds. In total they produced 50 figures. Lily Ledy figures are often manufactured with different plastics, paints, sculpts and accessories by comparison. Next up we have Poppy from Japan. They distributed from 1980 to 1982 with the Empire Strikes Back line, and their figures were sourced from the Far East. Poppy released 15 figures in total. They were interesting as each figure was sold in a baggie, packed in a small box rather than a standard MOC format, and those are pretty cool. Takara was the next company in Japan. They were manufacturers from 1977 to 1980 with the Star Wars line. Their figures were sourced by themselves and the Far East. Takara only released 10 figures from the first 12 without releasing Death Squad Commander or Jawa. They managed their own versions of Darth Vader, Stormtrooper and C-3PO. However, Takara did also distribute the Kenner versions of these figures. Next up we have Tall Toys from Australia and New Zealand. They were distributors from 77 to 83 of the Star Wars Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi lines, and the figures were sourced from the Far East. Tall Toys figures are largely identical to Kenner figures, although the vinyl Cape Jawa does differ slightly. It can be found on both Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back cards. Next we're moving to Argentina with Top Toys. They were a manufacturer between 83 and 84 with the Return of the Jedi line. Their figure source was themselves. After acquiring the license from Kenner, Top Toys released 7 figures in total. However, they decided to create their own molds, and this was possibly to keep costs down. To create these molds, they used Kenner production figures. This resulted in the figures being smaller and less detailed than the Kenner versions. They also lack foot holes. The accessories are also totally different to the Kenner versions. And lastly on my list today is Sakuda Original, another Japanese company with distributed from 83 to 84 with the Return of the Jedi line, and their figure source was Kenner. Sakuda imported packed MOCs from Kenner and simply added a single sticker to the back of the card. They released 21 figures in total, including the first 20 Return of the Jedi figures plus Darth Vader. So there you go, I hope you enjoyed that little guide of the licensees all around the world. A nice little trip around the world there. And that actually came from a question I got asked on the live stream. So if you've got any questions like that, jump on the live stream and I may do a video on it. I am always here to help and inform. And I give thanks to the guys at Echo Base for letting me use their guide as information for this video. If you're not a member of their Facebook group, just get over there. If you're just starting out collecting or you've been collecting years, you need to be on there. You will always grab a bargain and beat those eBay prices, but you have to be really quick. So thank you for watching. I'll be back soon with another how to collect video. So until next time, may the toys be with you.